the way you have taken up today's topic in a very crisp, in a very practical oriented manner, I think so it has given answers to many questions. And we are getting feedbacks that says that they are really enjoying the session and it is very interesting information that has practical application to it, because you have not talked much complicated things. You have talked things that are very feasible, practical and workable. To start with, a few questions that we have on the list. We have a question coming from Dr. Wasif from Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah, he's asking Dr. Anjali, if student studied well and understood the whole material well, but in the exam they didn't get high marks, who will recognize them?
And that is exactly the point. Thank you so much for the question, Doctor. I missed the name, please.
Rima Tyagi, ma'am.
No, the name of the person
Dr.
who asked the question. Dr. Wasif? Thank you so much for your question, Dr. Wasif. I really appreciate it. And I think you hit the nail on the head. And that was exactly my point. Why do we give tests? Those are not the right assessments. I always prefer to give them worksheets, and I encourage them to work together. Now, some teachers have argued or discussed with me that what will you do if they copy from each other? I tell them, first of all, copying also needs some level of understanding. The second thing is, if they are understanding, or even if they are copying and writing everything in their own, with their own hand, they are learning in the process. And my aim is to help them learn. My aim is not to test them or to judge them. And what Dr. Wasif just said is very true. There are a lot of students who are extremely intelligent, very hardworking, but when it comes to a test, when they come to our classes, they are intimidated, not because the material was difficult for them, but because at the back of their mind, they're thinking about, if I get a low mark, then what will happen is my teacher will judge me, my peers will judge me, my school people will judge me, my parents will judge me. And that takes away half of their brain. Is that a good thing to do for our students? I think a lot of us would agree that it is not. So please help them do other types of assessments, which will, trust me, when I take my students to the synchrotron facility, they have published a scientific paper. They didn't get any credit. They're grade 11 and 12 students. They don't get any credit. They work 5 hours a day on those projects without expecting anything. But why are they so bold and courageous to pick up those projects? Is because they are not intimidated by what will happen at the end of the day. Who will judge me at the end of the day? And the learning that happens through those projects is immense. It can never compare with what we can teach them in our classes or test them with. So I hope I answered your question, Dr. Wasif.
Thank you, ma'am. Very rightly said that this kind of allotment of marks and then grading, it sometimes for some students they can cope up, but for most of the students it becomes a hampering factor in the learning process. Very rightly put, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's one question coming from Dr. Anil Paliwal, Udaipur, Rajasthan. He is asking that should we develop educational leadership or should we allow it to evolve post COVID-19?
Good. Educational leadership can be developed at any point of time. So the pandemic has given us an opportunity to do things differently. And while we are doing things differently, at the back of our minds, we should have these attributes that we just discussed. And the other people have discussed, the keynotes have discussed this, I'm sure. This is our opportunity. And I will repeat what I said earlier. Shake it up. Shift the paradigm. This is our opportunity as teachers and administrators and as parents too. Some parents actually, what they did is while the students were at home, they didn't know what to do with them in their free time when the classes were not happening for a little while. Some of them learned cooking. Some of them learned driving. Some of them learned things that are life skills from their parents at home. So those are also attributes of global. Sometimes we think global leadership is a huge thing. It's not. Global leadership comes from the smallest of things in our daily lives, which helps us become better people and better leaders. And we try to collaborate. So you can collaborate as teachers. And now with technology, it's become so easy. Teachers can collaborate with the world like we are doing right now. This is such an awesome opportunity for all of us to hear each other, to learn from each other, and get knowledge of the experience and use them for our own purposes. So I would not wait for the pandemic to end. I would continue to do my work, explore, and find my niche and my students' niche to develop everybody as global leaders. Hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Then there's one question coming from, the name has not been mentioned. I hope all leaders, the question says, I hope all leaders will inspire and take the leading role towards the approach. I think so. It's a statement that after this session, the person concludes that I hope all leaders will inspire and take the leading role towards this approach that you've discussed. Ma'am, your reflection, your response on this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. However, please don't wait for leaders to do that, because everybody is a leader in their own way. Students are leaders in their own way. I think I have learned more from my students than I ever learned in my classrooms. I'm very grateful to all the professors and teachers from whom I learned. That gave me a stepping stone to go out in the world. However, a lot of learning for me has happened when I interact with my students. So we cannot wait for leaders to come and do things. We need to do our own part every single day, because each one of us is a leader in our own way. So please think of yourself as a leader, whoever has put this question, and do things that make you a better leader, because you are already a leader. We just need to strive to become better leaders and eventually global leaders, so we can help others become leaders.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. There's one question coming from Dr. Purnima Ganesh Kadam. She's principal at Pratibha College of Education, Pune, Maharashtra, from India. She's asking, first she wants to compliment that it is very well elaborated. And she talks about the other aspects from the session also, that peace and its attributes. So what kind of efforts do we need to take in the form as a teacher to have peace and sustainability?
Wonderful. That's a really good question. Thank you for the question, Dr. Kadam. And as a principal, I think you have a lot of responsibilities, because you need to develop leaders in teachers, you need to develop leaders in students, and that is it's a very not just huge responsibility, but also important. So how do we do this? It doesn't require too much effort. As a leader of your own institution, you just need to listen. That's the first thing. We need to listen and hear what the people have to say around us. The second biggest thing is, please give your teachers time and resources for professional development. And keep reminding them that if they make mistakes, it's not a big deal. They will not be punished for that. Support them while they are trying out new things and let them make mistakes. That is when they will get courage and they will be able to make students the same. The mistakes, discuss with them and guide them so that those mistakes are minimized when they are actually following through their own projects. Let them do things, give them time, give them resources. And that's all we need to do, and give them opportunity to attend conferences like this one, so that they can hear from people from all over the world, or even from just within the country or within the own school. Give them time to talk to each other. Because as teachers, we are so busy from morning, because our work doesn't end when we come home. We continue our work. So within the school time, give them an hour a week probably to sit down together and talk to each other, share their best practice. I call it the S of the 21st century skill, sharing. We are sharing these days, aren't we? But if it could happen more frequently in schools, can you imagine how much difference it would make? And that is one thing, a suggestion I can give. So Dr. Kadam, I hope I helped with the question.
Yes, ma'am. And I think so. Dr. Wasif finds today's sessions very interesting, and I think so somewhere he is also facing this kind of problem, because it is again a very practical question that comes from him. How can parents avoid negative effect of children's friends on them?
Very, very good question. And I think that is the most important question for any parent, and especially when they become teenagers. So I'll give you a very funny, a very interesting story, my personal story. So one day I was looking a little happy when I was teaching at the college, and one of my colleagues came and said, "Why do you look so happy, Anjali?" I said, I don't know, like I didn't even realize I was looking happy. And I said, maybe because it's my son's 13th birthday. And he immediately bowed down and he said, "My condolences." And for a second, I didn't understand what he said. And then I realized that what he was trying to tell me is, your son is a teenager now, problems are coming. You see? The problem of friends that Dr. Wasif just talked about, problem of all the info. Now, that time we didn't even have the internet when this question was asked for me, right? Now with the internet, the world, especially the bullying that happens. Previously, what used to happen is the student was in school, got bullied, came home, felt safe, and the safe environment, we were there to love them, be kind to them. But now that thing doesn't end when they come home. If their friends are influencing them a lot, then what will happen is that they are bullied even when they're home, or they're influenced by their friend, the question that Dr. Wasif asked. So I can only suggest, parenting is the most difficult task, and all of us know that already. However, and you always learn after the fact. You always learn, oh, I could have done that. However, one suggestion as a veteran parent I can give you is, please talk to your children. Give them courage to tell you if they make a mistake. The same thing that I talked about in a classroom, and I said it takes a village. So parents, it's for parents also. When my son was going to high school, I told him, if you want to smoke, then I will give it to you, but don't take it from anybody else. I should know. They never did, but then they felt confident that my mom will support me if I make a mistake. Please tell them that no matter what happens, we will love you, we will support you. Because if we don't do that, then students, our children will also be afraid of the judgment of testing. At home, all the testing happens because the marks are low, the friends are influencing them, and they are afraid to discuss those things with their parents. And there can be nothing worse than that. So Dr. Wasif, one message I can tell you is, please talk to your children a lot. I know we don't have the time as working parents. However, please find time, find things that the whole family enjoys to do together. Playing games or watching a movie or just eating popcorn and sitting down on the sofa and chatting, discussing other things, and let them make mistakes. But keep reminding them, tell us when you make mistake, we will love you, we will support you no matter what happens in this world. I hope that helps.
Yeah. Then this coming from, again, anonymous. Thanks for this informative session. Can reading books replace the role of a teacher in classroom? What is the difference between the student who received their knowledge from reading books and the student who received their knowledge from a teacher, a guide, or a leader?
That is such a fantastic question. And I always like to tell stories because I'm old enough to have so many stories, right? One of my students said, I don't like to learn anything from anyone in my classroom. I was teaching at a college where they were adult kids, right? And he said, I don't like to. I said, why do you think so? You don't learn anything from anyone? He said, no, I learned driving on my own. I said, I don't think so, because you must have observed somebody driving first. So teaching is not a direct thing. Whether you read a book, then the author becomes the teacher. When you are in class, your teacher is a teacher. When you're home, your parent is a teacher. And I want to replace the word teacher to mentor and facilitator of learning again. So don't think if a child is reading a book, there is no teacher. There is a teacher. The author is a teacher. So sometimes people say, oh, I can learn on my own. No, you can't. I will never say that I can learn on my own. I cannot, because I listened to Dr. Telsara today. I learned from her. I listened to you. I learned from you. I learned from Dr. Mahenta and all the other speakers. Wherever I go, I learn from my students. So we cannot say that learning happens in a classroom. That is one thing we have to stay away from. And that is why we have to be careful. Remember, I said in my presentation that knowledge is available freely these days, all over the internet. You can attend Khan Academy and learn all your classes from algebra to management, right? However, what is our role? To help them analyze if the knowledge that they're getting is correct and authentic. We get a WhatsApp message before we forward them. We have to first investigate if it is fake or is it real news? Because with technology, these things are happening. And that is the same thing we need to tell our children. We need to tell our students. We need to tell our teachers. We need to discuss it amongst ourselves as administrators. So, books do not replace. Book is a teacher. And I hope I answered that question.
Very, very, very beautifully said, ma'am. The book itself is one that is teaching. So it takes the role of a teacher when someone is reading a book. Yes. Dr.
Yes.
Pratika Verma, she's asking, she's saying that with many qualities that you have discussed for students and teachers to be developed for overall development, how should the institutes take into consideration the role played by the parents?
Yes, it takes a village, and I'll repeat what I said earlier. And when I say it takes a village, to make students, we need parents to be aware of global leadership qualities. We need teachers, we need administrators, because one person or one community cannot do that. Their own experiences with their friends develop them as this or that. The books that they read. So it is not something that one can do to do that. It is a collaborative effort. And then, no matter how much effort we put, we need to help the student become global leader by helping them become courageous. And that is why I keep repeating myself for 10 years now, courage, courage, and courage. And how does the student get courage? When we let them make mistakes. And I cannot emphasize these things enough. And that is why I'm so emphatic about this, that anybody cannot become courageous and if they have even the slightest fear of getting punished.
Right.
We can relate it to us.
Right.
Right? Can you imagine a teenager or a younger kid? They are very, very young. They are more fearful than we can ever be. So please give them confidence by giving them support and keep reminding them it's okay to make mistakes, but keep discussing it with the old elders so that you can get support.
Thank you, ma'am. And Dr. Manish Bhatnagar, he's saying, how can we develop global vision in our students with multicultural background?
Beautiful. And that question, was it Dr. Sorry, who?
Manish Bhatnagar. I think so, ma'am. Yes, Dr. Manish Bhatnagar.
Yeah, so Dr. Verma, that's an awesome question. Now, going back to what I said earlier, and I do that in my classes, and I'm very fortunate. I will start from how fortunate I am to be teaching at a school where we have 48 nationalities, students coming from 48 nationalities. And trust me, that has made me a better person. I keep telling people all the time, because now I understand that people from one space are not like this. Sometimes we say, oh, this person comes, he must or she must be like this. I don't say that at all, because now I know what is important is a human being. And I actually tweeted that also some time back. I said, why do we have a word race in our dictionary? Because as soon as you have the word race, that brings in racial tensions. We should call everybody a human being, because we cannot keep people in compartments that these people are like this, because that is the most important thing for global peace. Because the first thing that makes us negative is when we have preconceived notions about, oh, this person comes from here, so he or she must be like this. It's stereotyping. And that is what the biggest hindrance is for global peace. We have to look at everybody as a person, as a human being, and not assume that he or she will be like this just because they come from there. And that is the first thing that we have to learn. So no matter from which nationality your students come from or your teachers come from, equity. Remember I talked about be fair and be equitable? That is what is important. Unless that happens, global peace cannot happen. We have to look at every person as a human being.
Right.
Period.
This word has been taken up by Professor P.K. Dashura also, has been mentioned in the National Education Policy 2020 also.
Oh,
and
very nice.
Again, yeah, and today again it has been reiterated by you in an emphatic manner. So I think so equity and inclusiveness, these two are very important components when we talk in terms of giving education, developing leadership, and the management and the school education system. So I think so today's sessions have been very interactive, very informative, and the audience, the attendees have really enjoyed the sessions. Because of the paucity of time, I cannot read out the names, but there are lots of messages coming that says that Dr. Anjali ma'am, your session has really been very interesting. And there are lots of things, the practical things that you've talked about, the solutions, the practical ways that as parents, as teachers, what coping strategies, mechanisms can be taken up, either when we are on the front of a teacher or when we are as a parent. Those things can be inculcated and taken up by the parents, and then we can build upon a harmonious relationship, be it a parent-child, be it a teacher-taught. So peace would certainly prevail when things work out in this synchronization, in this symphony. So with this, I extend.
Yeah. Before you go, Dr. Tyagi, I just wanted to say two more things.
Yeah,
the first thing I want to say, Dr. Tyagi is such an awesome speaker. And Dr. Tarsila, I really enjoyed your session because, and you, the way you actually, you are a great facilitator. Like the way you have encompassed everything that is happening here in both sessions, in the earlier session and my session. So thank you so much for that. The second thing I want to say, if any of the attendees want to go further with the discussion that we had today, please, you can ask for my email address and I'll be really, and I'm on my LinkedIn and my Twitter. So please, you can find me in both places. And please connect with me because I love to collaborate. I collaborate with teachers all over the world like I'm doing now. And I love to discuss because I like to learn as I go. So please connect with me and I would love to discuss this more and learn from you. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, in fact, we have been fortunate that we got this opportunity and I am extremely thankful for this session. But before that we leave, I would again like to extend a very, very big thanks to the director of this international webinar.
Yes.
I don't know how Professor Hemlata Talesra ma'am manages. All the speakers that have come up have an intimate one-to-one relation with Dr. Hemlata Talesra.
For sure.
So,
And I second that. I second that with my heart.
yeah.
I cannot thank her enough. Thank you enough, Dr. Talesara. Like from the day I've known you, the amount of respect you have shown, and the like it's very rare in the world. It's very rare for a person of your stature to give so much respect to us who are much younger and not as experienced as you. It makes me feel courageous.
And yes, ma'am, we are talking of developing leadership. I think so. She has herself put up as a role model, because once she is there as a team, I think so. The way she's coordinating things, the way she's managing link ups, and the way she has planned the entire ideology behind this international webinar as a concept, and then the deliberations, the discussions, the interactions, the way things have floated all these for 5 days, and we are continuing tomorrow also. So the number of presenters, the number of attendees, I think so Talesara ma'am knows most of them by name, and in person she has met most of them. So that is a great credibility to you, ma'am. And we are talking in terms of global. I think so our Hemlata Talesara ma'am, the director of this webinar, is a global leader.
You are a global leader.
Yeah, you are a global leader. And we extend a warm thank you to Dr. Anjali Ahuja ma'am, Professor Hemlata Talesara ma'am, and to Bobby ma'am. Due to some technical issues, she had to drop in between. But I think we are meeting tomorrow again on the same platform at 2. We have 2 sessions tomorrow. First would be of Dr. P.K. Dashura sir. He would be taking up the topic leadership for developing human values. And second would be of Dr. Paul Miller. He would be talking about leadership for social justice. So these are the very pertinent, relevant, and interesting topics that we'll be hearing tomorrow, and then followed by the valedictory session. I wish you all a happy and safe stay safe, stay healthy, and meet you tomorrow on the same platform at 2 p.m. Thank you so much.
And Dr. Tyagi, before you go, would it be possible to get the comments and the questions for myself to think about for later?
Right. And
the comments and the questions, if I can get, then it helps me, like how people have responded for myself, for my improvement.
Very good point that you have just now discussed, ma'am. And I wanted to announce it also, that all the attendees, it's a kind request that you are giving us questions and your reflection here in the chat box. But in the brochure itself, the 2 email IDs of Professor Hemlata Talesara ma'am and myself, Dr. Seema Tyagi, they have been mentioned there in the brochure at the extreme end of the brochure. And you all are, please feel free to write your comments, your responses, your questions, whatever you feel like discussing around this theme of the international webinar. We would be very happy, and then we can work about on all those things, and we can plan in future a more elaborative and descriptive webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you send me the comments for today's presentation, please?
Sure, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr.